So it's been a couple of weeks since we met because last Thursday was the fifth Thursday of the month. So we tend to take a little breather. And I will fully admit my car has been in the shop. So I'm usually in upper state probably 2 to 3 times a week, and I feel a little out of the loop in the last week. So I'm just going to turn it over. Sergeant Dijon, any updates and just in terms of your activity, law enforcement, observations, things that you've seen in terms of impacts to the region?
You know, I hate to always sound like a broken record the last few times we've met, but things are kind of status quo right now, it seems like, on the north end. I spent some time up there yesterday on a bike, just kind of hitting all the target locations just to see. And I would say things are looking pretty normal as they have been for the last 6 weeks or so.
Okay. And Conrad and Carol and Will, I see you on the call. And I know that folks are trying to do multiple things at one time, but any input in terms of strategy, prioritize regions for Upper State Street? You know, this is our first Thursday of the month. So we really just want to focus in terms of observations you've had, individuals of concern, and obviously encouraging folks to complete that encampment or individuals in need link. And Father John, any observations in terms of activity or movement that you've seen among folks that you are supporting at the day center?
No, the numbers are going up.
Okay.
I mean, that's last Friday, we had 60 unduplicated people.
Is that a particular time of month for you? Do you see, you know, in terms of the number of clients that come in at the end of the month versus?
Yeah, it's that way. And then the first of the month, it's lighter because they have their checks. But
Right.
this month, it dropped off to more normal to about 30 to 40 a day, even after they got their checks.
Okay, interesting. Carol, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I was away for about 10 days, and so this issue has been resolved. But I'm wondering about when they did the big clean out on North State there in the old triangle. I saw there was dumpsters, but it took a very long time for the leftovers to be picked up. And it looked like a lot of bike strollers, bike trailers and things, I think, for the residents to move their items were left. But then there was a large amount of items placed behind the MTD bus bench on the corner of 154 and Hollister across from that, it's the Paloma and the Hyatt. The entire back of the bus stop was filled with brown tarps over it. And I was wondering why something wasn't done about all of that, those items. It was almost worse than having them off in the bushes. So.
And understandable, you know, I appreciate you asking the question. I know it's a delineation between property ownership of individuals that are claiming, you know, that those are their personal belongings versus those kind of, again, folks that aren't claiming those belongings. Chris or Sergeant Dijon, anything to add there?
Yeah, so you're accurate in that a lot of the items that remained at the original location were personal property that the folks that were there were wishing to retain, and they had moved it from Caltrans property onto the city's public right of way. So Caltrans was no longer, it was outside of their jurisdictional area and into ours. We, Sergeant Dijon's team and my team went out there and took a little while, but we were able to get them to either take their property elsewhere or agree that, you know, this stuff is going to be trashed. So we were able to get it cleaned up. A lot of those folks did relocate further up State Street towards Hollister. And they actually crossed outside of the city limits. Once you get past that State Street off ramp and like the 154, you're now in Santa Barbara County. So once they set up at that bus bench, we notified Santa Barbara County. And beyond the fence behind that is again Caltrans, and they set up a lot of stuff behind the fence, and we notified Caltrans of that, but that's actually outside of the city's jurisdictional area.
Thanks, that really helps me. I have one other little quick question since I've not been around for almost a month. Is anyone doing anything about the fenced encampment below Juvenile Hall by the Golitas Cemetery? They've got a nice little fence up and have established a nice big community right there. Is anyone working on that?
That is also in the unincorporated area of Santa Barbara County. They are aware of it. I've spoken to them about it. It's on their list of locations where they're providing outreach. Santa Barbara County handles things in a different workflow than we do. But I'd direct you to Lucille Boss with Santa Barbara County for any questions on that.
Thank you.
And Kayla, can you put Lucille's contact information? She's able to only join this call once a month just because it conflicts with another regular standing meeting, but the county encampment response task force has actually an ongoing spreadsheet that providers and other partners have access to in terms of what encampments are being prioritized at what time. And if there has been outreach and engagement, some notes to update that. So we can bring Lucille on when she's available to just give everyone an update in terms of how the county responds to encampments and what their process is like. But Carol, thank you for bringing that up. Al, I see your hand up.
Yeah, just to follow up kind of on the same conversation is that I know with the Upper State Street, a lot of those belongings, the individuals were moving their belongings. They were doing it more in the later afternoon and evening, just because they didn't want it to be like just all eyes on them as they're moving stuff. So that's probably why Carol was noticing that a little bit more because the individuals weren't just like Chris said. They were their property, they were claiming they were their property, so they were going to move it. But especially now, since it's getting darker later, they were waiting until it was a later time for that. So that's the answer to that part. As far as the second part of Carol's question, we do have outreach and we have made contact with individuals around those areas, and we've been in very close contact with Chris Clark and his partner. So I'm working on the name, Joe.
Joao.
Yeah, with Joao, we've been pretty much between us three. We've been in contact like almost every single day, which I completely love because it definitely streamlines it directly to our staff. To the point of literally, they sent an email to me, they got it to me, and literally as I'm responding to the email, my staff is literally in the encampment that we were both emailing and talking about yesterday. So things are being done and outreach is being done in that area as well.
Thank you so much, Alan. And I will say it's just great to have, the full CityNet team ready and available, doing outreach, active case management in all the neighborhoods throughout the city of Santa Barbara. And again, just being able to have the capacity to respond to the reporting through the city. And so I want to emphasize, I think the reporting overall or use of the link has been a little bit less with the Upper State Street route than other neighborhoods. We just really want to encourage you to utilize that link. It's super user-friendly. All of the details and information that you can provide will absolutely help the city be able to triage the need and be able to kind of, again, target and deploy resources as needed. So that reporting system is the primary way that the city not only responds in terms of their capacity and departments and needs, but also providers that they work with. So I just want to, again, keep reiterating that link is really, really, really important. And Chris has reposted that in the chat as well. So a few things we want to just touch on this morning. We're actually having a meeting this afternoon, and a few of you have been invited to participate in that, only just in terms of representation of the Upper State Street RAP and engagement overall on re-strategizing how we facilitate regional action plan meetings moving forward. So as you can see, we had that initial kind of level of increased engagement and advocacy as it related to the temporary safe shelter program at the Rose Garden Inn. And we absolutely had said early on that we would maintain a commitment to facilitate the Upper State Street Regional Action Plan meetings even beyond that program, because we know that there are impacts to the area and that we have individuals in need in the area, and we will continue to do that. What we've heard in terms of the last year and a half, so Upper State Street has been actively facilitated since November. Prior to that, we had several meetings at the onset of the encampment response that the city was coordinating, again, and to be able to mitigate fire danger over the high fire season. So again, off and on, I would say through the summer last year, but we've really formalized Upper State Street RAP in early November. a lot of the other wraps, and Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, I think State Street is our longest running with East Side, and that's been a year plus. And then the waterfront came in shortly after that. Because of the level of engagement and coordination, collaboration with law enforcement and outreach and other service providers, things are running pretty, I would say, smoothly as they can, given the need that we're seeing among our unsheltered population. And the communication flow has been so much more improved, and we're able to, again, access and ask questions and get answers to those questions to be able to share back to you pretty rapidly. And I just, again, want to over emphasize the work that the Sustainability and Resilience Division has done with the city in terms of creating this reporting process, having it accessible to the public, and again, being able to share that information in real time every single day with outreach providers to be able to respond. That in itself has made so much improvement, through us being able to address the needs of individuals experiencing homelessness and impacts to the neighborhood. So given all of those progress measures, we're looking at kind of shifting a little bit how frequently we meet, as well as how we can be more accessible to residents and business leaders and service providers in the region. And so I wanted to put it out just for open feedback right now in terms of, one, we are looking at several options that we'll be discussing this afternoon. Most of them include a reduction, whether to every other week in terms of the neighborhood wraps or once a month. And two, facilitating some level of in-person, site visit, meetings, conversation, as well as a virtual meeting in terms of educating folks on strategies, tools, resources that are available. And we have termed that the all call wrap, which is every wrap in every neighborhood has the opportunity to come together and really learn and be in discourse with each other and share information. So any thoughts in terms of a more accessible time for the Upper State Street region and the willingness or availability to meet in person versus virtual?
I'll just throw out there that when you're talking about the frequency of the meetings, I feel like, once a month from my standpoint would be fine, just because we haven't had a lot of changes to report from a law enforcement standpoint. And I'd definitely be flexible to increasing that if there was a need to, if things started to spike again. But
Right.
just my 2 cents.
Oh, I appreciate that. The ability to be just responsiveness if we're seeing an increase in activity, that we can always add a meeting at a different time and be able to report on progress. But Ryan, I appreciate you acknowledging that it does take some time for us to be able to show those improvements and be responsive, and a month time span seems to be where we're hearing is the appropriate level of time where we can bring back really completed action items versus being kind of in process over the course of the month. Yes, Father John.
I'm curious, because you got these different groups. Do our homeless brothers and sisters migrate from one to the other? And how do we, that's just moving chess pieces. It's not really solving the issue. And I understand it's so much about housing, but, just constantly moving them from one place to the other, I don't think is the best solution, but.
Agreed. And Jeff, I'll turn it over to you. I know, we see movement for different reasons at different times. And again, depending on what we just experienced with the encampment response to mitigate high fire danger, to movement because it is a temporary safe shelter program opening and then closing. We know that the modular units and Dignity Moves, there's going to be referrals to that property, but that's not going to be a place where you can go there to seek shelter or to get assistance. It's through the coordinated entry system. Any thoughts just in terms of movement in general and how you've been able to facilitate that with the wraps?
Well, I think many of our same service providers are on the multiple wraps, so conversations about movement often comes up there. And I think if we did the monthly all-call meeting, that would also be helpful because we'd be able to communicate as we see movement or numbers kind of escalating in one region and not the other. How do we tackle it? How do we move resources, but I think that's also, Father John, the reason why we have our neighborhood navigation centers and we have your day center is because we have these ways in each neighborhood to actually have data related to what homelessness looks like. And actually we have the same team who knows people, so they see them moving. Barbara, even as you went to Carpinteria to see what's going on down there, you saw some people that move back and forth between Carpinteria and Santa Barbara City. So you're able to kind of, as we communicate and connect, we're able to communicate about individuals. Even going to the east side, I went to the east side opening for the neighborhood navigation center that Kayla's been collaborating and running. And I saw one individual who's primarily on the waterfront, but happened to come to the east side on that day. So I connected Al to him, knowing that they're on the waterfront. So I don't think it's necessarily scientific. It's a lot of relational communication. But I do think that the idea of a monthly all-call wrap where concerns can be brought forward if we see something like that would be good.
Agreed. I was surprised to see 3 folks that I was familiar with downtown at the Carpinteria. We're not calling it neighborhood navigation center, but they existed before the NNCs were formalized. They're doing an incredible job. They do a pop-up on Wednesday afternoons at the Veterans Building. It's just a really nice setting and offering similar services to what we've been able to offer both at the day center, Father John, as well as the NNCs. So a nice complement to the work that's happening within the city. And we will be presenting to City Council next Tuesday. Once the agenda and materials are uploaded this afternoon, we'll share that with all of our regional action plan stakeholders, as well as our steering committee leadership. This will be detailed update on the strategic plan progress, as well as reports from CityNet, and then an overview by the city of investments in addressing homelessness and its impacts throughout the city. And so I think it's going to be a very thorough, informative presentation. We absolutely encourage folks if you can listen in at a later time. And we'll also be sharing details from that presentation through our regional action plans and our all-call meeting after it's presented to City Council next week. So our commitment as SB Act and the Act on Homeless Collaborative is to be transparent about data, progress, challenges that remain, things that we have learned through the last year and a half, and really being able to work with city staff and city leadership to be able to continue to make improvements moving forward. So again, a pivotal moment for us in terms of reporting out on the first year of the collaborative's progress. Any questions or further input on how RAPs can be more valuable and productive for all of you, as well as questions about the Act on Homelessness Collaborative, our strategic plan, and any other, again, questions or concerns that you have?
Hey, Barbara, it's Liz.
Hi.
I have a conflict at 2 o'clock today. I have a little overlap, so I might be late to that discussion, but I think monthly would be good with quarterly all calls. That might be a good alternative.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Liz, for that input. I think the shift to monthly, I think, again, just making sure that we're meeting all of you at a time of day and a location that's most accessible. So we'll continue that back and forth. But as we kind of, again, meet back with you next week, share some kind of decision-making with the focus group this afternoon, we can keep refining that over the course of the next month. And then I think we're anticipating, Jeff, a shift in the RAP meetings for some RAPs as soon as mid-May. I think for the Upper State Street Regional Action Plan, we're thinking end of May, beginning of June, and probably before the holiday. Okay.
When they go on the railroad? I was just gonna say, Barbara, for our data presentation, it seems like it would probably make more sense for us to present data at the all-call wrap.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so again, if we're looking at quarterly all-call wraps, I think, Chris, that would be really robust in terms of your presentation across all wraps. If everyone's convening together, we can obviously record that and make sure that it's accessible to everyone. So I think that would be, again, because the tool is really incredible that real-time data reporting is always there and accessible, that the quarterly all call would be the appropriate time. I agree with that. Oh, sorry, Liz, were you gonna say something?
Sorry, I can't quickly raise my hand on this thing. Question about we're just talking about the wraps, right? The working groups are still going to stay weekly? Okay, just for context, between the working groups and the wraps, there are a lot of meetings that the SVF is coordinated on a weekly basis. So I just wanted to give some context on that.
Yes, the working groups meet monthly. So we have 3 Mondays of the month where different working groups are meeting. And so we're hoping to keep the working groups pretty consistent because we have really detailed projects that we're advancing among those working groups. But I think towards the end of this year, we can engage with working groups to talk about is every other month, something again that we can facilitate more effective coordination and collaboration and continue to move forward these really detailed projects. Kayla, is there anything you want to add just in terms of working group dynamics, projects, but then also the wraps? And I thought maybe you could take just a moment to fill the Upper State Street wrap into what an all-call wrap is and share some links to some trainings that we've had in the past month.
Sure. I think you've done a great job at kind of describing the level of detail that our working groups are trying to work at. So we'll be working with some of those partners, and they do interface because some of the tools and projects that we're working on at the working group level directly benefit providers and housed residents and business owners in our wraps, like other directories that we're building, other homeless prevention work that we're trying to do. But the all-call wraps have looked like trainings in the past. This past month, we facilitated 2 different all-call wrap trainings. The first was a kind of human trafficking 101. What does it look like in our county at both the sex and labor trafficking levels? I'll pull up those links in a minute. And then the second one that we facilitated was last week. We had a really great presentation from the Pacific Pride Foundation, who provides a lot of access to Narcan and education on fentanyl and what's happening kind of in our streets, because we know that the opioid crisis ebbs and flows, and we are in a peak of that here in Santa Barbara as well as across the country. And so there was a presentation last week that I'll post the link to in a moment in the chat that was just kind of a deep dive on practical use of Narcan, of naloxone, these life-saving resources that are available to us through several different avenues. But one is through the Pacific Pride Foundation. They're willing to provide us with Narcan. So if you are interested in watching that training, learning a little bit more about Narcan, which is a necessary tool for us, for service providers, for folks regularly engaging with individuals on the street, to be able to save a life and do it well and do it safely. We need those trainings. So the all-call wraps in the future will look like more trainings from other partners who have resources, who have tools, who have other trainings that they want to share with us on an ongoing basis, as well as, again, this kind of level of data reporting and interfacing over the challenges that we're seeing across all of the regions. So I think the benefit of the all-call wrap, there are many benefits. So I'll find those links and share them in the chat right now.
Thank you, Kayla. We appreciate that. Any questions or additional input on what we've turned the wrap? Jeff, anything to add just in terms of the progress to date, the future? And I know there's a couple of other kind of update announcements that you want to share as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're excited about it. We didn't want to have to put everyone through these weekly meetings forever. We're very thankful for the structure the city's put in place. And I think that's been extremely helpful, and the response of all the partners, all of you who have been so responsive and collaborative, really appreciate that. So I personally am really looking forward to in-person meetings that fit with the schedule of Upper State, right? So we can actually work around your schedule. We would love to find a place locally where where the meeting could be hosted and those kind of things. So keep that in mind. If you have a spot that you think would be nice, we could fit all of our partners. The only other things I had to add were some of the things we're also trying to do is working with Liz in the city to do these in-person trainings, like a de-escalation training that CityNet's going to do with us, and then we're going to record it, and we're going to try to make that link available so we never have to do that training again. So if you want your employees to go through de-escalation training, it's there and available, and people know how to get it. Or if we want to talk about, if we want everyone to walk through that homelessness response directory again, have that recorded so people know how to access that. So a certain amount of recordings that could be available so we don't have to keep doing those, but the community knows about them. And then I would love to do, I'm going to do it on State Street, Lower State Street pretty soon. But if we need to take that up, that homelessness response directory, and take 3 hours and just do, go to businesses and make sure people have it in hand. We found that response directory is really good for, I was talking with a State Street business owner at our NNC, and she was filling me in on some issues that they had related to people coming into the business and didn't know how to respond or who to call. And I gave her the document, and she said she took it through with all of her staff and how thankful they were that now they knew who to call and what to expect. So I think we have some documentation I'd love to make sure we get in everyone's hands. So those are just a couple of ongoing things. When we have the training for de-escalation, we're looking to host it at the Hilton. So when we have that information, we'll get it out to everyone if you want to attend it live. And we plan on, as I said, recording it so everyone can watch it at some point. So just from SBAC, our thanks for the commitment of all of our partners, our appreciation, and our excitement about the changes that are coming forward.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. And a couple of just additional notes. So as many of you know, last week, the kind of last of the eviction protections statewide were lifted. There has been an extension for households that have an emergency rental assistance application in process, that they cannot receive a notice of eviction for lack of payment until June. And so they're just giving some more time for folks to get through that process, hopefully meet the eligibility requirements and have that debt paid off both to the landlord, property owner, property manager, as well as to help that household in need. But we know that there are going to be families that will be at risk of experiencing homelessness. So there's a couple of things that I just want to add to the chat as resources, because many of you are out and about in conversation, see folks in need. And again, your observations are very astute for those who are living in their vehicles. And we know that families resort to living in their vehicles as that next step if they lose their housing, and that there's ways for us to reach out and support them. So there's a detailed and I would say very helpful guide on housing transition resources that's available through 211. It's available both in English and Spanish. And this is a variety of resources, again, that we have available through the city and county of Santa Barbara to help folks that may be struggling at this time. We also want to reiterate the coordinated entry system. And so this is the system that we have in place that if an individual or family is experiencing homelessness, this is a way to engage in the system, be able to have your needs shared and identified, and hopefully be able to connect, again, to be able to get you the support you need. So what they call this, and if you look, I posted the link, it's the countyofsb.org link. There's a difference between the coordinated entry system, which has a little bit more of a limited hours in terms of intake, and you would have to be actively experiencing homelessness to be part of that, versus diversion. And so there is a new diversion program that Good Samaritan Shelter is facilitating, and they're called diversion specialists. And this is for an individual or family who's at risk of experiencing homelessness. So if they've received an eviction notice for lack of payment, to start that conversation, to reach out, and again, see if there's assistance available to your household. So diversion, again, if you are struggling, you are worried about what's ahead, if you haven't received the eviction notice, but you're anticipating it, that diversion program specialist is the contact information that you want to utilize, versus those who are actively experiencing homelessness. that we want to, again, make sure that they're accessing the system in the best, most appropriate way. Specifically for youth, NOAA's Anchorage is the lead for coordinated entry, and for veterans, New Beginnings is the lead. So again, just wanted to emphasize and highlight, as you have conversations with folks who are out in the community, if you see individuals in need, we want to report that through the encampment link and the individuals in need link. But we also, again, have resources at the ready to be able to support people. Any questions, comments, or other announcements? And appreciate the feedback in the chat on the RAP structure and frequency. Thank you so much for that.
I have a related question. I don't know if it RAPs are a part of the overall strategic plan. When is there a review of that strategic plan and the metrics that they're going to use to evaluate it?
Yeah, so that is what's next Tuesday at the City Council meeting. And Father John will share that information after we present it to City Council. As our lead partner and accountability structure, we want to share with them first. But there's 4 high-level goals, all measurable over a 3-year period, relating to increasing the number of affordable housing units, increasing the capacity of case management and outreach, looking at housing retention. So again, making sure that once folks are housed, that we're successfully retaining them in housing, and homelessness prevention. So again, really clear, we provide progress to those goals after our first year, as well as our street exit goal. So Jeff has been facilitating across all the regional action plans for 2021, a street exit goal of 100 street exits, both temporary and permanent. So we're reporting out on really good progress to that goal, as well as highlighting our goal for the following year, which is 2022 this year.
Good.
Thank you. If you have any more questions, Father John, after looking at that or listening to that presentation, or as we present it to the RAP next week, please let me know, and I'm happy to provide that detail to you.
No, I'm looking forward to hearing Jeff's presentation.
Yeah, we have made a lot of progress. And so I know it's hard to feel and experience that daily when you see the impacts of homelessness being very much present, but we have made a lot of progress. There's still incredible amounts of work to do, but we're going to take this moment to be able to highlight both where the challenges remain, the progress that has been achieved to date. And again, all possible because we have all of these incredible partners at the table. So let us know, please give us feedback on that presentation, on that content. If it's not useful or valuable to you, or if you want more data available to you, we have plenty of it, and we can report that back to you.
Thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments? All right, thank you folks so much. Really appreciate it. Enjoy some of this summer weather. And I hope you have a good rest of the week, and we will absolutely be seeing you soon and being able to provide a really good detailed progress report next week. So thanks all for your time today. Take care.